You're listening to Nostalgic 90s,
a straight-edge retrospective of a decade to the max.
We are your OG hosts,
Dan Williams
and Grant Walden.
Hey guys, so welcome back to the 90s, and you should know that we are not to the 90s yet. We are in 1982. Starting in January of 2020, we will be doing a week-by-week retrospective of each week in the 90s as it corresponds to the 2020s. We're just wanting to look back 30 years and see what kind of cool stuff happened. But we got to warm up to the 90s, right?
Right.
So we are in 1982.
You got to preheat the oven.
You got to preheat the oven, right?
Yeah.
So, welcome to 1982, and let's take it from the top. What were the top songs? Billboard 100. Number one song of the year, Physical by Olivia Newton-John.
Huh.
I know the song. Maybe I don't love it, but I know it. And, you know, you got to say, there's something.
I'm not in the mood to get physical today.
No, please don't. But number two, you got to love, because it's Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, how is that number two?
Right, that's the question.
Wait, had Rocky come out yet, though? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming they had to go hand in hand together.
Yeah.
But, wait till we get further down the list. There's some stuff you won't believe that got bumped.
Well, Get Physical was like the ultimate, no, I'm wrong. Eye of the Tiger and Get Physical were the ultimate exercise pump-up songs.
Yeah, it's so strange.
They still are. And I found that interesting. Was that must have been, that would have been when a lot of the exercise craze started happening with, was a little more in the public eye of encouraging people to do the whole, I'm trying to think, is it not jazzercise? I wonder when that came out, but like the whole aerobics, that's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah,
but I mean that was a thing, hype.
You just can't do a training montage to Physical, but you can do a great training montage to Eye of the Tiger.
Right.
But number three, I Love Rock and Roll, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
There you go.
Not
Hype.
a bad song, right?
Very good hype song. It was the year of hype, I guess.
Well, no, I'm about to put a pin in that. 'Cause number four was Ebony and Ivory.
What a good song.
Oh, it's a fantastic song. It kind of breaks. It's a combo breaker. Combo breaker. Yeah, because there's Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder coming in with something serious after we just had three songs that were just hype songs. Number five was Centerfold by the J. Giles Band. I wouldn't have thought that. I love that song, but I wouldn't have thought it would be
J.
so
Giles or J. Giles?
I do not know.
I think it's J. Giles.
I
think I've mispronounced it all this time.
Well, number six is a great one because it's Don't You Want Me by the Human League.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do not know the name of the band, but knew the song.
Oh, you should check them out. They're pretty good. I didn't realize that this one was the 80s. Jack and Diane.
Yeah, that was the 80s.
I would have thought it was. I didn't realize it was the 80s.
That's 80s, dude.
Well, John Cougar had a great year because he had number 7. And
was it John Cougar or John Mellencamp or John Cougar Mellencamp?
It specifically says John Cougar.
Okay, so that was the early.
That was real early 80s.
Yeah.
But he had number 7 with Jack and Diane, and he had number 8 with Hurt So Good. He had number 7 and 8 top songs of 1982.
Jack and Diane is a very good song.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So is Hurt So Good, but Jack and Diane is really just a well-written song.
In it, I think that's a generational song.
It is a generational song. It's one that, yeah. It's good.
Number 9.
Also, the drum sounds on those records, those early Cougar records, just good, solid records.
I love the drum sounds from the 80s because you either had physical drums and they sounded great, or you had these.
Well, people were getting experimental.
Well,
they were getting experimental not with just the electronic drum sounds, but with like gated reverbs or reversing reverbs or doing things like that. Here's the engineering producer side of me getting all nerdy. But seriously, we kind of reverted back to that with a lot of like Taylor Swift and a lot of the sounds that you're hearing now over the past couple years, where my 80s drum sounds kind of came back.
Yeah, we're really harkening back to that time period. And I don't have a problem
there was
with that.
a deal with big, like in the 70s, it was big, roomy drums.
Yeah.
And, like the 60s was real kind of tight sounding. And a lot of it had to do with technology and the advances in that.
All the 80s aesthetic. I can't wait for Dark Wave to come back.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for it.
Hey, that's a cool thing, man.
Oh, man, I got this is so off point, but I guess we're talking about the 80s. I got to see Depeche Mode a couple years ago in Nashville.
I forgot about that.
One of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But hey, number 9 was Abracadabra by the Steve Miller Band. And I can hear it in my head right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a song that's not hard to say. I'm Sorry by Chicago's number 10. Okay, yeah, and that's the sound I would make because I think number 11 should have had that spot. Number 11 was Soft Cell's cover of Tainted Love.
Yeah. Okay. Well. I'm gonna.
It is the cover of that song.
Let me not make any Chicago fans mad. I'm just not a huge Chicago fan. I respect them. They're very talented. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not a horn player. You are. So
as a horn player, again, well, it's the same kind of problem.
But as a horn, if
respect-
I were a horn player, I'm like Tower of Power, Chicago. Really? No comparison.
No, I mean, and I love what they did. I respect them.
Oh, it's
immensely
good. Yeah,
musically.
for what it is, it's really good.
If you're out here right now and you're a Chicago fan, please don't think I'm speaking ill of Chicago. I just have not found the Chicago songs that speak to me. I just haven't found those.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, I got to tell you, number 12, we just talked about it in 1981. We talked about the film. Number 12 was the theme from Chariots of Fire.
Makes sense.
Yeah. 13's a great song. Harden My Heart by Quarterflash. You know that one? Oh, you should check it out. It's a fantastic song. But number 14 is what I was really trying to get to. Rosanna by Toto.
That only made it to 14?
Which I think I got to double check it. I think this means that 1982 saw the release of Toto 4.
Fantastic record.
Oh, it's killer. That's one of those. Whenever people are getting into it 40 years later, like they were just discovering it for the first time, you made something amazing.
Well, not only that kind of goes back to what we were talking about on the Dan and Grant show.
Yeah.
It goes into the lucky 10,000, people discovering something for the first time. But also, here's the thing that point I geek out about it. It's one of those records that kind of sets the bar for what I do in the recording studio world, production and engineering and all of those sorts of things.
Oh yeah,
just a fantastic record.
But oh man, this was a good year for music. Like if you like the '80s aesthetic, because you got to remember, off of that record was Africa. So we're talking
right,
about, and that
exactly.
whole album's good.
No, the whole album's fantastic.
This was a year for songs that are the '80s. Number 16 was 8675309 Jenny.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's funny because somebody asked me for my phone number last night, and I felt my age because it was someone younger than me, and I started giving them 867, and they started typing it in their cell phone. It was like 5309.
Yeah.
And they're like, and it took them a little while, and.
Oh, man.
And then I was like, no, hang on, hand me the phone. Let me type it in myself.
Well, and that had to be kind of an outlier. Because a band I used to play in, we would cover that song, and you could, if the crowd started dying down, the automatic go-to was Jenny, because they would immediately, it was a button to press to get the crowd back. But yeah, number 19, Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner. Shake It Up by the Cars at number 23. A band that I just recently discovered, and I can't believe and I say we, I mean we millennials, especially those of us that like indie music and like crate digging. Man, don't sleep on the Motels. Their song Not Only the Lonely was number 29 for that year. Go back and check it out. The whole album is killer. I don't know how we've let ourselves forget about that. But we had Who Can It Be Now? We had that. I'll take that out. We had that.
No, I'm leaving that. That's not getting edited.
Oh, God, no.
No, that was too good. That was gold. That was pure gold. That's got to stay.
We had Men at Work at number 30.
That was that far down?
That was that far down. Well, that's because you had Hold Me by Fleetwood Mac at 31 and Eye in the Sky by the Alan Parsons Project at 32.
Really?
This was a killer year.
That was a great year for music, man.
Oh, it was killer because Open Arms is number 34. Journey.
That's that far down?
That's that far down.
No way.
You got to look at what it was competing with.
Well, I mean, everything was like good.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, shout out to my buddy Grant Goddard, who's living in Nashville. He's monitor engineer and one of the engineers on the new Alan Parsons Project record. So he's working with Alan, and that's really cool. We got to know each other in a workshop with Dave Pensato, mix engineer. That's both our heroes and mentor and friend. And if you don't know who Dave Pensato is, check him out. Really cool guy, extremely talented, amazingly skilled mix engineer who well, I'm sure you've heard Beyonce, Single Ladies, and Michael Jackson's, you know who that guy is, right? Did You're Beautiful, with Christina Aguilera, and, people like that, So, we got to know each other. Grant and I did. Ironically, both our names are Grant. So I was G1 and he was G2. That was what Dave nicknamed us, and so that's cool. But anyway, he and I both did. I did the webinar version, and he was actually physically at Abbey Road Studio 3, where Dark Side of the Moon was recorded and stuff like that, with a workshop with Alan Parsons for 4 days. And I texted him. I was like, "Dude, I'm totally creeping on you across the Atlantic Ocean." And he's like, "Whoa, wow," And so that was kind of cool. But that was his hero, and really cool. I know I just kind of went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But that is his hero, Alan Parsons, and he's working with him now, and he's got a credit alongside next to his name. Well, for those of you that don't know who Alan Parsons is, shame on you. Alan Parsons Project, of course, but engineer, producer, Dark Side of the Moon with Pink Floyd. He was assistant engineer on, I believe he was an assistant engineer on Abbey Road with the Beatles, stuff like that.
I think the only thing you really need to know about
Dark Side.
Well, I mean Dark Side, but not just that. You can go look at that iconic photo of the Beatles playing their final concert on the
Yep,
rooftop.
he's in that photo.
That picture.
Yep.
He's standing over there in his was it the orange?
Yeah, I think so. But anyway, shout out to Grant Goddard, man. Proud of you, buddy.
Moving down the list, we got Open Arms by Journey at 34. It's that far down. Heat of the Moment by Asia at number 40. We have Private Eyes by Hall & Oates at 44. Right, so this was a killer year for music. You got Freeze Frame by the J. Giles Band at 49.
That's a cool song.
Oh, man, it's so good. Hey, here's a country song. We've not encountered a country song on the top 100 yet.
Which is an interesting...
We have. I made myself
Yeah. Dolly Parton, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got Love in the First Degree by Alabama at number 50, at 55.
Right on,
so we're starting to get to that time period.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy and co-writer and friend Martin Armour. I just talked with him this morning, and we were going to do breakfast and eat some pancakes, but he is in today he's at Fort Payne, the home of the band Alabama, at Jeff Cook, their guitar player's recording studio, working on something. I don't know what.
We recorded there. My band recorded there, but I met Jeff Cook in a really interesting way. We didn't know he was at the studio yet, and a friend of mine
I've never met him, but heard he was real nice.
He's just the nicest guy. I'm wishing him all the best with his.
I've met their bass player. What's his name? Gentry. Yeah, real nice guy.
All those guys were super nice. But anyway, a former band member was obviously very nervous, and he was loudly scatting the Family Matters theme song. And Jeff Cook turns the corner and says, "Yeah, that's good, but I think it's been done." But anyway, so maybe we're seeing the last Diana
That's pretty
Ross.
good.
Oh yeah, I mean it was great, and it was just a terrible way to meet one of your heroes. But yeah, I grew up listening to Alabama. I love them.
Dude, so many good songs.
We might be seeing. I'd have to double check this, but this might be the last Diana Ross hit. "Why Do Fools Fall in Love," number 54 for that year.
Such a good song.
Yeah. Like I said, this was a great year for music. I'm wondering. I Ran So Far Away by Flock of Seagulls at 67. Wow. Somebody's Baby by Jackson Brown at 68.
That is such a good song. I was in a cover band for a while, just honky tonk type cover band. We played a lot of. Well, we played that song. That's what that just made me think of. And we played a lot of Delbert McClinton. It's like you could just play all Delbert McClinton and it would be okay in a country honky tonk. But anyway, great song, Jackson Brown. That's fantastic. That's a fun song to play.
All right. Are you ready for your jaw to drop? You're not going to believe that this song came out this year and was this far down the list.
Okay.
You ain't ready.
Hit me with it, man.
Number 73. It's a Journey song. Which one do you think it is?
No way.
Don't Stop Believing.
You got to be kidding me.
Number 73.
Good grief.
It's at the very. I mean, it's on the Billboard, so it's not like it was.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but you don't think about that being that far down the list.
That's like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost like if there was something more than number one that should have been up there on that.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
it gets a plaque or something.
Yeah.
76, Empty Garden by Elton John. Maybe not one of his biggest hits, but it's a fantastic song.
Yeah.
You won't believe this one's this far down the list either. Number 79, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by the Police.
Yeah.
Get Down on It by Kool and the Gang at 82.
Well, wow.
Yeah, I promise, guys. I didn't intend for this episode to be a rundown of the top 100 of 1982.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, when we get to 84, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate how much of this, how much of modern culture is still coming from this 80s music. Because number 91 is Kids in America.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now, who did that?
Kim Wilde.
Oh, yeah.
Originally,
yeah.
Working for the Weekend by Loverboy at 96.
Wow.
And here's one for number 100. I would, in a million years, I've never believed that this song was this far down the list. Stevie Nicks, Edge of 17.
No way.
Bringing up the bottom of the list at number 100.
Wow. So what have we got in the way of movies?
All right, so 1982 in film. Let's start with the highest grossing films. Because number one, it's iconic, and it grossed more than Raiders of the Lost Ark did the year before. Coming in at $359 million is E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Dude, that is one of my favorite movie soundtracks ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not even a huge fan of the movie. Okay, it's good. I'm not debating that. But the music, I mean, John Williams, I mean, you think of him as, Star Wars and all that stuff. Home Alone, he did that too, which is another great soundtrack. But the E.T. soundtrack is fantastic. When I was at the Pensado Awards, Haley and I went and we toured Sony Picture Studios before the event. A mutual friend of ours got us in and got us a tour, so that was cool. But we went in this studio to tour that was usually booked out, but it just happened to be no one in it using it at that point in time. We walked in the room and I just got chills. Hair stood on my arms. And Haley looked at me. She's like, what? Where are we? She knew it was like, I didn't know where we were going. And it hit me right in the face when I saw the bicycle hanging from the ceiling, that it was, in fact, the room where the soundtrack for E.T. was recorded. A lot of the Star Wars. That's one of, if not John Williams' favorite.
It's one of the most important rooms
in the world,
in modern culture.
Oh yeah, like literally, it was palpable, and I mean, you could feel the energy in the room, and I think it was because it just hit me in the face like a ton of bricks. But I was going around asking the tour guide all these nerdy gear and music questions. I had no clue. No one else on the tour cared. They were like asking all these celebrity questions, like who was here, blah blah blah, and I'm like, so what microphone did he use on the on the French horns, And I'm like, and he's like, I don't know. It's probably in photos, and I'm like,
you should know that.
I'm like, if you're giving a tour of this, but it was so cool to walk in and see that and be like, wow.
Well,
it was an overwhelming experience, to say the least. Because it was kind of like holy ground,
I got to tell you, I'm looking at this list of films, and I'm wondering if these people knew how good it was in 1982, for the pop culture at least. Because, man, we just spent 20 minutes talking about the songs, the movies. We could spend that long as well.
Well, let's do it, man. What's up?
Well, all right. I got to admit, I've never seen number 2. Number 2 was Tootsie. I've been told it's a fantastic film. I've never seen it.
Nah, me neither.
Same with 3. I've never seen An Officer and a Gentleman. I was told it was fantastic.
That's a good one. But
here's your answer to Eye of the Tiger.
Oh.
Number 4 was Rocky 3.
Oh, okay.
But now, it only grossed $124 million. I know in 1980s money, that's a lot. But I would have thought that movie would have grossed so much more than that. And in my head, Rocky 3 did not come out the same year as E.T. I don't know why I have that.
That doesn't feel like that should be the same year.
But you know what else came out that year that doesn't feel right? Porky's.
Oh, really? Yeah. But like the Rocky 3, I think that's my favorite Rocky movie.
I think it is the Rocky movie.
Yeah. I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Rocky movie.
It's iconic.
Wait a minute. Was that the one where you had Apollo died or...
I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm just gonna have to like go on a Rocky binge here and just watch all the Rocky movies.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, that franchise is still going strong. The Creed movies that came out are good, right? I mean, they follow the formula. So if you like the Rocky films, you'll like those.
Yeah. So what else are we looking at?
Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan came in at number 6. Only grossed 78 million, almost 79 million.
See, I want to be a Star Trek guy, and I've just not gotten into it like I want to. That's still cool though.
I've always been a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, I like Star Wars, but
My experience with Star Trek has been strange. Every time I walk in and somebody's watching an episode, I look over and something really bizarre is happening on screen. And I look at it and I go...
That's exactly, I just snorted.
Yeah,
that's exactly the same thing with me too. So,
like, I'm sure that, it cannot be that there's this many people that absolutely love Star Trek and it's not a great series. It's just that I keep walking
it's always
in
like,
at the
that's
wrong
really
time.
weird.
Yeah.
Me too.
So, number 8, Poltergeist.
Okay, I'm not a huge horror film guy. I do like suspense, and I tend to like older, like Bela Lugosi and the House on the Haunted Hill, White Zombie, Dracula, a lot of that stuff. Vincent Price, and stuff like that. I tend to like those kind of horror films more. But man, Poltergeist was fantastic. Like that and The Exorcist and The Shining, stuff like that. Those are very suspense and done very well.
Yeah, I mean, Poltergeist, it's one of those films that it's not your typical horror film.
Right, it's very iconic too.
Yeah, it has, and maybe that's why, it has some redeeming qualities beyond just, it's a scary movie.
Well, and it's like, a lot of horror films tend to really pour on the cheese factor.
Yeah,
and that bugs me. Yeah.
Dolly Parton was killing the early 80s because she had the number 9 film with the best little whorehouse in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was killing the 80s. And number 10 rounds it out with Annie. But we got to remember, and I hate that the list only goes to the top 10 films because, man, films have a cult following just like music does. And just like Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17 should not have been the number 100 song, even though it was a fierce year. You got to remember you have Airplane 2 that came out in 1982 and did not even make it on that list.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean,
so what about like sitcoms? What are we dealing with? I mean, like...
Let's see. Well, before we move on, I got to tell you Blade Runner came out in 1982.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I understand how it didn't make it on the list. I do. But, Blade Runner and Conan the Barbarian both came out that year, as well as Creepshow and as well as The Dark Crystal. They all came out.
I can see that, especially with The Dark Crystal, though, because that's one of those that's kind of a cult classic. Like, you really have to appreciate it and just be a fan of that sort of thing. So I get it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it had a better life after it came out.
Right. 20 years later, people are like, that's a really cool movie.
Yeah, so, I definitely see how it came to be, that it didn't have a lot of life right then. So, big television events. We got February the 1st sees the debut of Late Night with David Letterman.
Dude, that's huge because, to be on Letterman, I mean, that's as iconic as it gets.
Yeah,
man.
It doesn't get bigger than Letterman. You know who his first guest was? Bill Murray.
I was going to guess Johnny Carson, but Bill Murray.
Yeah, and he danced around to Olivia Newton-John's Physical.
There you go. Of course he did.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It's Bill Murray, and yeah, that's got to be what it is. So maybe not as iconic as that, but May 2nd saw the Weather Channel go on the air. And I feel like maybe I'm not the only one that's ever turned on the Weather Channel just to listen to the music, just to have that you playing in the background just for some kind of noise. So speaking of David Letterman, July 29th saw the wrestler Jerry Lawler slap Andy Kaufman right in the face on David Letterman. And, of course, Kaufman responded by throwing coffee and, cussing at him. But the big problem is it turned out that was later staged. Right? So, big year for David Letterman. I guess an end of an era happened in 1982 as well, because you saw Bo and Luke Duke leave the Dukes of Hazzard in 1982. September 6th, they were written out of the series. And they tried to bring in Coy and Vance to make it, to bring it back around, but that didn't really happen.
Yeah.
So I guess this is important because September 25th is whenever Julia Louis-Dreyfus joined Saturday Night Live for 3 years before she would end up joining Seinfeld later in the 80s.
Huh.
So, yeah. That same night saw Queen perform on the 8th season premiere of Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
okay, so Saturday Night Live would have started in 76, 70s.
I'm not actually sure on that. I don't
the 8th season.
know.
Okay, yeah, okay. So moving on to sports. What happened that year, one of the things that I find pretty fascinating is the NFL, National Football League, had its first strike. And it was some sort of antitrust decision.
I mean, that's important.
Yeah.
I'm just such a bad sports guy. I'm still looking at lists of important TV events from the 1980s. And I'm not actually seeing a lot of shows debuting that would turn out to be super... Oh, Knight Rider. So 1982 also saw the debut of Knight Rider. But I guess we buried the lead a little bit because it also saw the debut of Cheers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So, and maybe that was, the end of the big debuts for 1982. But it's hard to... I mean, we got the spinoff from Cheers of Frasier, and Frasier, was one of the defining shows in the 90s. So, 1982 brought an end to some things. It ended WKRP in Cincinnati. It saw the end of Mork and Mindy. But, that was really the only, I don't want to say the only notable shows that ended in 1982, but I feel like there's a good chance that...
Well, also in 1982 in sports, being in Alabama, this is important here because University of Alabama being such an iconic thing, especially in the world of football, Coach Paul Bear Bryant coached Alabama for the last time in the Liberty Bowl game.
That was 1982. Okay, I'm a huge Alabama fan. I was born into it. It's almost like a birthright, I guess. But Paul Bear Bryant he was before me, so I know him as this iconic figure. But he's always seemed like a historical figure in Alabama football. Mm-hmm. So to think of that, the end of his career being as recently as 1982, that's just so strange to me to think it was that recent.
Yeah, the NFL actually, they went on strike too. We were talking 57 days.
Big year of football.
It was the longest labor dispute in its history at that point in time. Sugar Ray Leonard, boxer, also decided that he had boxed for the last time. He quit boxing that year. He had some sort of eye surgery or something.
I'm not even a big boxing fan, and even I know Sugar Ray Leonard was one of the greats.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was a pretty interesting year. What about politics? What are we talking about on that? Anything significant happen that year in politics?
I mean, yeah. We had, in 1981, obviously, Diana and...
right, and then the birth of William.
Which didn't happen until 1982. So,
right.
That is that's a pretty significant event right there. I just looked at the cost of a gallon of gas in 1982, and it was 91 cents. Just kind of, I'm sure that's adjusted for inflation. I'm sure that's not great, but I would.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah.
How do you feel about paying $320 a month for rent? That sounds great. That was the average rent in 1982.
Wow.
But yeah, man, here's something weird. I don't know, man. When you're editing, you may have to find a way to put this in here. We missed something big because it wasn't on the top 100 anywhere. Thriller dropped in November of 1982.
Oh,
that whole
wow.
album dropped in 1982.
Oh, wow.
But big events that happened in 1982 that were not pop culture. AT&T was ordered to break up. So they broke up the monopoly. They broke up Ma Bell, basically, in 1982. Canada got its independence in 1982. Yeah, that's the same face my students make when I bring that up.
Really?
Yeah, Canada was not an independent...
Commonwealth of
Yeah.
Great Britain. Yeah.
1982.
Wow, that feels like that.
Not even 40 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So those were probably the really big takeaways from 1982. Kind of an interesting year in a lot of other respects, but politically there just wasn't that much, except for those big events. There wasn't that much happening. I mean, it was a big year for pop culture. I guess maybe this is worth mentioning. The largest cash robbery in history happened in 1982. In New York, someone stole $9,800,000 from an armored car. We saw the first issue of USA Today being published. The IRA was...
USA Today is that recent?
Yeah, right?
Hmm.
The IRA continued its bombing in London and mainland Britain. So that was a thing that was happening in the 80s. Here's something happy that happened. Epcot opened.
Oh, yay.
Yeah,
Love
Experimental
Epcot Disney World.
It's one of my favorites.
that is my favorite. I think you have to be a little bit more of an adult, or at least a little older, to appreciate it, though.
So here's a really fun event. If you're just looking back in history, 1982 was also the year that Michael Fagan broke into the Queen's bedroom in Buckingham Palace. Channel 4 launched in the UK, which Channel 4 has made a lot of the really prominent television programs from today.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the first artificial heart implanted in the United States in
Oh,
1982.
wow, that's huge.
Yeah. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. was dedicated in 82.
You ever been to that?
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, that's the correct response.
It's...
Yeah, that's the correct response.
So, yeah.
That's all you can say.
Here's just a couple of strange births from 1982. I wouldn't have thought about this. Leanne Rimes and Kelly Clarkson were both born in 1982.
You're the same age.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
The very first CD player was sold in Japan in 1982.
Huh.
Yeah.
Dude, that's huge.
It really is. And
Wonder how
here's-
much that thing cost. Oh, good grief.
Oh, I'd love to know. But you know who the the Times Man of the Year was in 1982? The computer. We're getting into the technological age, right? So another interesting scientific...
So a person wasn't,
It was the computer.
but the computer was.
In 1982, they said, here it is, the computer's going to change everything we know. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to it on some kind of a computer right now. You're listening to it on your smartphone. You're listening
Okay,
to
that
it
right there, wow.
Right?
In 82.
In 82.
Talk about foresight.
Yeah, they called it.
They called it.
Another cool thing that happened, the Soviet spaceship Venera 13 landed on Venus and sent back color photographs.
Ooh, neat.
Yeah, it's just so cool. But yeah, that really wraps up most of the major
I keep
events.
thinking about Thriller dropping in 82 and Michael Jackson. It dropped in November of 82, right?
Yeah.
His birthday, I think, was in like August or something. And he was born in 58. So that means he was 24 years old when he did Thriller.
Yeah.
Like, let that one sink in your head. I mean, and he had already done all the other stuff. Off the Wall had come out, but Thriller was done by a 23, 24-year-old.
Yeah.
That record.
It's amazing.
Now, he had a team of amazing people
but there's a lot
around
of
him,
there.
obviously. But he had the sense enough to assemble that team. Still the best-selling record of all time, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like done by someone at that age.
And I guess maybe it's appropriate to talk about this since we're talking about Michael Jackson. And I know that he was in the Jackson 5. I know he had a career before Thriller, but when I think of Michael Jackson, I really think of things starting with Thriller. So maybe that's kind of, to me, that's a beginning. And
the thing, I agree and disagree, but what I think you're hitting on is, like, even Quincy Jones. Like, he's quoted, I don't remember, I'm not going to quote him because I don't remember, but just paraphrasing what he said was that when they went in the studio to do Thriller, they wanted to change, their goal was to change the music industry.
Well, they did.
That was their goal. I mean, like, to the drum sounds on Billie Jean, oh my goodness. I mean, and you got to realize this was done in the days of tape machines. 24-track, 2-inch tape machines, and they were linking two tape machines together, so they had, 48 tracks to work with and all that. And you did not have digital recording in that. I mean, it just amazes me that was done then. So yeah.
Well, I've got two more things I want to mention, and we will wrap up the 80s unless you've got something that you want to bring out here.
No, man, go ahead.
So what I was saying, it seems like a good bookend. If Thriller came out in 1982, I think it's a nice bookend to mention that was also the year that Graceland was open to the public.
Oh.
Which really feels like an end.
Really?
Things, yeah.
Have you ever been to Graceland?
I have.
I've been outside because just tripped to Memphis and just kind of drove by.
It's worth it to go in.
I haven't gone in though.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Elvis's music. I don't think I understood what a culturally significant just icon he was, and I should have known that. But going into Graceland really put it in perspective. The Jungle Room is worth seeing, if nothing else. But here's one more thing from 1982 that'll really blow your mind. It's the first time that an emoji was used, or that we know the first time an emoji was used. It was recommended as a way to communicate intent in email.
Really?
Yeah.
Email was a thing in 1982?
It was, but it was really small scale.
That's interesting.
The internet as we know it would not really exist in the early mid-90s.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, it was a really niche thing,
Yeah, exactly.
You would not have, in all likelihood, in 1982, you would not have known someone that had either sent or received an electronic message.
Right, but still, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
so yeah, wow.
We're really starting to see the birth of what I think would be
the 90s computers. That's really interesting. The CD player thing really blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't think of the CD player as being something from the 80s, but there it was.
Oh yeah, definitely something from the 80s.
Well, I look back and I know there were a lot of films that were supposed to be, they were trying to capture a feel from a different time. But, I watched Pulp Fiction, which is timeless, except for the technology and the vehicles involved. But I watch Pulp Fiction and I see them using reel-to-reel tape players and things like that. You don't see them using CD players. And, maybe it was intentionally trying to feel anachronistic. I don't know. But
Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm thinking, by the 90s, you would hear people talking about CD players nonstop. But man, I can remember a cousin of mine talking to me in the 90s. Or maybe this was the early 2000s, because I was old enough to actually be thinking about the world around me. And we were sad because the Walmart, which was, this is how you know you grew up in a small town. At that point, it was the only music store we had. They had consolidated their selection of cassette tapes down to a single aisle, and we were just absolutely apoplectic. We were beside ourselves. And we started having this conversation about CDs, whether or not CDs would ever die. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think there will ever come a day where you cannot walk in to Walmart and buy a CD. And maybe that's true, but I went to an FYE for the first time in probably a couple of years, about a month ago. They had more records than they had CDs, man. Their CD selection was as small as the cassette collection at that Walmart that I was just talking about. It was down to a single rack. And it just blew my mind. And I recognize it's because everything is streaming now, or there are better options than the CD. So I'm not bemoaning the death of the CD. But it's interesting to see. You can almost say CD born 1982, died 2016, 2017.
Well, let's wrap up with this. The compact disc, obviously a huge thing. And the first popular music album released on CD, as we know them, was The Visitors in 1981 by ABBA.
Oh,
that
wow.
album was done then, but they released it, with the first CD. And the first titles were released in Japan, obviously, but also Billy Joel's album 52nd Street.
Oh, that came out?
And you had it was the first compact disc music release, but the also the album Brothers in Arms, it got popular because of the clean and precise production of it. So yeah, I mean, it's like the music industry changed as a result of the compact disc because you could fit much more music, just time, on there rather than a long playing, which is what LP stands for, vinyl record, 33 1/3. So because you could fit more on there, and it was a cleaner, smaller, compact, you could fit more music on there. So it changed the course of the direction of how music was presented to the public. So songs would start being a little longer sometimes, and yeah.
Well, I got to be honest with you, man. I know we're trying to wrap it up, but I think we're on our third episode now.
This is a hard. Excuse me.
It's a hard year to pan down.
This is a hard year to shorten. So apologies for the long episode, but
and we've also made a mistake, man. We haven't talked much about counterculture, but maybe what I think of as 80s counterculture was just starting to fire off because 1982 saw the release of the eponymous Sonic Youth album. Their self-titled album.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which definitely has its influence on 90s.
Yeah.
Because the Pearl Jam guys, the Seattle movement, you don't have that without Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
So
I've tried. I mean, I like Sonic Youth. I just
yeah, but I think you had to be there.
And another album we almost missed. Because, hey, it's not going to hit the top 100. The fourth album by The Cure came out. Pornography came out in 1982. And you would maybe know some of the... So The Hanging Gardens The Hanging Garden was the song that most people would know off of The Cure. It was a hit in the UK. It didn't do well in the US. But you would be a couple of years down the road and The Cure would be a household name.
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of feel like we've done counterculture a disservice. So apologies for that. But there's just so
we
much
should probably
to
think a little bit about that. So
there's just so much to try
for future
and fit
episodes. You know what? Let's just go ahead and let's wrap it up. There's so much in this episode, but thank you for listening. And rate us, review us. Again, apologies for this being a long episode, but
I can't.
There's so much that has happened in this year.
I can't.
Okay, go ahead. We got one more. What?
Rio.
Really?
Yes. Rio came out that year. Duran Duran's Rio, for those of you that are not realizing that. How did that not...
Well, that was one of those things that probably just caught on years later, too, though.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, and you're also a big Duran Duran fan. I mean, I like them, but...
And of course...
That's more in your wheelhouse, too, so...
Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up there.
Yeah, we need to just stop. Thank you, guys.
I'm seeing Oingo Boingo. I'm seeing the Beach Boys. Man,
Which Beach Boys?
that would have been Sunshine Dream.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right.
Which is the compilation.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you in 1983. So yeah, leave us a review and a rating. Follow us on social media, and check out our other podcasts: Tape Noise Podcast, Muscle Shoals Storytellers, and Polybius. We'll see you in '83.